Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Fall 2026 New Jersey Film Festival Filmmaker Q&A series. And today we have a wonderful lineup of cast and crew for the really crazy film, The Flesh People, which will be screening at the Fall New Jersey Film Festival on September 26th, online for 24 hours on that date and in person at 7 p.m. I'll give you more information how to buy tickets and all that stuff at the end of the program, so stick around. But today we have an amazing array of filmmakers, cast, and crew. We have Jorge Carrión, who plays the lead, Ricky, who's a dropout med student. We have Louise Heller, who plays Geraldine, who's his roommate. And then we have Silvia Chen, who's the producer. We have Keshav Srinivasan, who is the director writer. Nicholas Long, who is the sound designer. We also have Yo-Rong Shieh. It's actually Yulanda Yo-Rong Shieh, who's the production designer, and Vladimir Edmond. And Vladimir, you tell me what you do because you weren't on my list. So can you
Oh,
tell us?
that's sure, no problem. So, I think tell me if I'm too loud here.
No, you're
Um,
good.
I, I think my official capacity was sound recorder and
Cool.
also a composer of the soundtrack.
Wonderful. Well, the Flesh People, the description that was provided to us is two roommates desperate to feel successful in the milieu of New York City turn to macabre money-making schemes by performing underground surgeries and serving human meat to unsuspecting customers. I think this film is a crazy film. The first thing I thought of when I saw your film was, have you guys ever seen Harold and Maude? And Harold and Maude, a kind of fucked up version of Harold and Maude. And I guess I have to ask the director writer, tell us, where did this vision come from, Keshav? Tell us a little bit about why you decided to make this film.
Yeah, I mean, I remember writing it. I think I wrote the first draft in like fall of 2022.
Cool.
And I think for me, actually, I was kind of channeling how I was feeling during 2020.
Mm.
Just for reference, I just graduated film school in 2019. And I think, once you graduated, like you have these like very romantic ideas of like what's going to happen right afterwards. Oh my God, I'm going to, hit the ground running. I'm going to be like getting a movie and all that kind of stuff. And then 2020 happens, right? And then I was stuck at home, and remembering just that feeling of insecurity I had of okay, you have all these ideas, all these projections of what's going to happen, and then suddenly life gets in the way, right? And kind of blindsides you. And that on top of being stuck at home, and it would kind of cause me to ruminate on that so much.
Mm.
And so I think when I was writing the film later in 2022, I was trying to put myself back into that mindset and thinking, what's the worst possible scenario? What are the worst possible consequences that comes from that feeling itself? So, I think, for me, like, yes, I mean, a lot of it is born out of, my love of horror films and especially stuff from the 70s and 80s.
Mm.
But I think the impetus of the script itself was just me trying to channel that feeling of anxiety and insecurity that I felt during that period of time and trying to figure out a way to marry the two.
I mean, it's a very claustrophobic film, and I think in that sense, you definitely get the pandemic feel to the movie, even though you do go out, there are some outdoor scenes and stuff. But how did you end up using Jorge and Louise in your film? They're both wonderful. I think the chemistry between them is really palpable. And yet I mean, it's a very strange relationship between the two of them. And yet at the same time, they do kind of come together, which without giving anything away, I really don't want to give any spoilers. How did you find these two guys? Did you do a cast call?
It's funny, because I cast Louise first, and it was like a very roundabout way of getting Louise on board. So, when I first wrote the script, the character of Geraldine was actually a man,
Hmm.
right? And I had cast the roles, both the roles, the two lead roles, and they were two different actors. They were not Jorge and Louise, right?
Hmm.
And the actor playing the male Geraldine dropped out.
Hmm.
Now, at that point, I had put out a casting call for a different role. It's the role of the counselor in the film.
Hmm.
And Louise actually submitted to it. Now, I already knew Louise beforehand. We were actually coworkers at the Tenement Museum in
Oh,
the Lower East Side.
wow.
And so when I saw Louise afterwards, I was like, Louise, it's so funny that you applied to my movie. And Louise went, what movie? Because she was just putting out, submissions left and right,
Hmm.
and realized it was my movie, right? And so I casted Louise as the counselor, and she was great. And I was like, cool, come on board. When that other lead actor dropped out, I asked Louise, hey, Louise, so this actor had to drop out. Do you have any recommendations? And Louise said, no, I don't. But if you're willing to make the character a woman, I'd like to throw my hat in the ring.
Hmm.
Right. And so I thought, okay. I told Louise actually specifically there is a monologue in the film, the infamous orgasm monologue. And I decided, okay, let me see if I can. Let me send you that monologue. We can talk it over, and we'll see, how you can approach it, right? So I sent over that to Louise. We were talking about it in detail, and I realized, okay, yeah, this can really work. And so basically, I rewrote the entire script from the ground up
Wow.
with Louise in mind, right?
Very cool.
As I did that, the actor for Ricky also had to drop out.
Oh,
And so I asked Louise, I mean, is there anyone you might know? And Louise is like, well, because Louise does a lot of theater acting. Louise
right.
acted in a play with Jorge. And so Louise was like, all right, what about Jorge? And so I brought Jorge in and had them audition together. And I think partially because they already worked with each other before, they already had such a good rapport
Yeah.
as it is. And I think once I saw Jorge play Ricky, I think the role kind of clicked more so in my mind in a way,
Hmm.
and I was like, "Oh, okay. I think this guy's got it. I think this guy's got it, and I think that he plays off of Louise so well." And so that's how I got Jorge on afterwards.
Very cool. And the project itself took 2 years to make, 3 years to make?
3.5 years, let's say,
Wow.
because yeah, I wrote the first draft in 2022,
Hmm.
and then we finished editing. I want to say like beginning of 2026.
Wow. I mean, Louise, you've gone from doing Shakespeare to doing the Flesh People, but there are some similarities, I think, with
Yes,
the monologues that you have in Shakespeare as well.
it's fantastic to be in a film and play a stage actor. So I just loved having that opportunity and to do the Shakespearean monologue and then make it, of course, a monologue about the failure of that monologue. So
Jorge, what play did you work with Louise on prior?
Yeah, it was a play called Beatrice,
Oh,
where her character basically kidnapped my character and chained me to a bed for maybe like a year. Was it a
oh my
year?
God.
And the play ended with me, with a bloody diaper on stage after
Oh
she
my
had tortured
God.
me. So,
So you already kind of
it's
already
very
are in the
right.
mold for the Flesh
Yeah,
People. Very
yeah.
cool. I mean, I wanted to say I felt the film I thought of David Lynch right away. You must be a fan of David Lynch. And I liked the quality of the sound is amazing, as well as the special effects. And I mean, just that, where did you shoot that? I mean, what is that an apartment you have, I mean, could you draw on the walls in this apartment? And
Ooh,
tell
could
us
we
more a little.
draw the walls? That's a good question.
I mean, it
um,
really had the right ambiance, this kind of yellow tint to
yeah.
the malaise of the space. And tell us more about it. And, it's a character in its own right, the
Yeah.
space itself.
I mean, I think, Sylvia and Yolanda would definitely be able to add a lot to this, but we're shooting in this, it's like a duplex. It was in Flushing.
Mm.
And Sylvia, I think rented out the place prior, right? Right, Sylvia?
Yeah, because I
That's how you
found
moved
I
in.
found this location for another short project before,
Mm.
and then later on, like with Keshav site projects, I was like, oh wait, this location might be suitable. So like we reached out to them, I reached out to them again, and then so we rented that place for 10 days,
10 days.
10 days or so.
Wow.
And then because our deal was that, okay, we're gonna rent the entire place and then we take photos. This is how it looks like before, but then like after the shoot, we're gonna like return it as as the originally look. So yeah, but like the production design, Yulanda, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, you did a great job. I mean, you used charcoal, and I guess you could take it off pretty easily afterwards or something like
Oh
that.
yeah, it's a whole process. I think I was there for maybe like 5 days prior to our first day of shoot. It was really a lot of work. I like aged the wall. I like to make it look, old and like you said, the charcoal too, and like brought so much stuff in there. Um, and then later, well, for me, I think what this project was resonating with me is that you see those two characters, they're like losers on their surface level, but they are out, they're also people who have dreams, right? Like there's something that they wanted to achieve.
Mm,
And I feel like for me, it's also important to show that part of the character on set.
mm,
So like, like the first thing that Jorge's character moved in was that like he put on the acceptance letter from
right,
Colombia,
right, right.
and Louise, like she's being like always preparing herself for like a chance, to shine. So like you see like the theater posters and like how I did like this calendar on the wall like of her rehearsal schedules, and it didn't show much in the movie, but her bedroom, I had this idea that it's like a backstage of the theater, like it's like a
Mm.
dressing room. And she has like her costumes all like hung up, and yeah, I think it was a lot of work, but it was also really fun.
I mean, it's like a canvas, and you were able to kind of create this world, and you did a really wonderful job. I think the mood of the film is enhanced by what you did, so kudos to you.
Thank you.
Well, the sound is also pretty important, and I wrote down we don't have this person here, but um, Vova Faust did the music.
Oh,
Oh,
Boba
that
Faust is here.
Is here? Who's Vova Faust? That's you?
that's actually me.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
God,
That
wonderful. So why do you use the
that's
pseudonym?
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that. And thank you for having me here, Albert. And
It's my pleasure. You guys are great.
yeah,
Tell us about it.
yeah, for sure. Keshav and I we were friends before he had told me about this movie, and it just so happened that, I do sound for film, for music and things like that, and I could record on location. So he asked me to do the sound for the film.
Mm,
And when he did, it was a brief synopsis of what the film was about. So I really don't know. I didn't know what to expect. Usually, sound people don't really know. But
mm,
I got to say, when I showed up, it was quite surreal. And this just speaks of Silvia and Yo-Rong's talent. It was like a fever dream walking into the set. So I had to. I saw that there was a task to really capture the dialogue. And the dialogue, I saw the importance of dialogue in this film, and how it was important to capture that and to make sure that it was clear and heard. And that was really it. That was my job on set. And after there was the task of scoring the film.
mm,
So that was a different approach as well. When you score a film, you're looking at the images, you're taking consideration from the director, but you're also trying to uh evoke what you interpret the film is trying to convey, and also what the audience will respond to. It's a kind of like, it's a fine line you gotta walk. But
mm,
Keshav gave me some notes. He said, hey, look, Johnny Greenwood, And if for those that don't know, Johnny Greenwood is,
Radiohead.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
the guitarist from, and he's scored several films, right? He's done, particularly, we were looking at the architecture of the movie,
It
I
was
believe
Spencer.
Spencer, correct. Keshav, yes. The film with Princess Diana that Johnny Greenwood had scored not too long ago. And he's worked on other soundtracks as well, such as There Will Be Blood. And there were some other notes from other influences, such as Miles Davis, um, uh, you know, uh, his album in Paris, John Hassel, who was a jazz musician
Yes.
from the
With
70s,
Brian
probably
Eno. Yeah.
one of the preeminent. Correct,
Yeah.
correct. So there was this soundscape. It wasn't just music, it was a soundscape. And then when you hear some of the soundtrack, there are some tracks that feature no melody whatsoever. There's no melody. It's all percussion. And I really wanted to dabble into that. And Keshav and the crew, they were kind enough to kind of give me leeway to discover what can we match here to evoke this feeling that this film is giving. And I hope it did that. So
It definitely did. I wrote down Smoky Blues. I mean, there was the passages
correct.
when there's like passages where you hear
Yeah.
music. I wrote down Smoky Blues because there's a kind of malaise even in the
Mhm.
soundtrack that you hear, and I think underscores what
Yeah.
we see. But I
If I
guess,
could
Yeah.
add to that,
yeah,
actually,
please go right ahead.
because the Miles Davis album we were specifically pulling from is his soundtrack to Elevator to the Gallows,
Right, right.
the
Louis Malle.
French, yeah, the Louis Malle film. And you know, uh, the way he was able to make that soundtrack, he basically improvised a lot of it, right? He had the
Mhm.
film played in front of him and improvised a lot of it. And so when we were recording the score, I remember it was me and Vlad, and Vlad brought in three session musicians, a trumpet player, a pianist, and a violinist. And so, Vlad had, so much of the kind of structure of the sound.
Hmm.
And then I noticed a lot of the musicians were then kind of riffing a little bit, right? Like kind of
Yeah.
improvising like a lot of their own tunes over it as well. So I feel like they're kind of channeling Miles Davis in that way too, right? And even in the approach to it as well.
You should
Mhm.
release the soundtrack.
I definitely want
Put it
to.
on Bandcamp. I'm telling you, it's really great. You should do
Yeah.
it. All right, we didn't talk about the special effects yet, but we do have Nicholas here, who I guess you did the sound design too. So you guys worked in tandem. Is that true? Nicholas with Vlad?
Is
Yeah.
Nicholas? Oh,
Nicholas
go
got to
ahead.
turn his mic on. Yeah.
Oh, Nick, I think you are you
Yeah.
muted?
He's muted. Yeah. I can't hear him. Now we hopefully still can't hear you. No sound from the sound man. It's okay. Technical difficulties on Zoom. I've done like hundreds of these since the pandemic broke.
Yeah.
And you name it, the headaches but it's gotten better, I think, over time. Over time.
Um,
Sorry, Nicholas. If you can, when you can periodically speak, and if we hear you, you can just jump in.
as Nick's trying to sort himself
Yeah,
out, if I
yeah.
could speak for him a little
Please.
bit, or attempt to. It was kind of during the post-production period, and I was trying to figure out who to have on board for a sound designer, and Sylvia was putting me in contact with a few people, and Nick was one of them. And I think after my first call with Nick, I was like, Nick's the guy, because Nick like totally understood it, totally understood the movie from the get-go, and not only understood the technical stuff, not only understood the aesthetic stuff, he understood the characters, right? And he was talking about the characters. And I feel like that's a mark of a really good sound designer. It's like, yeah, it's one thing to be like, okay, I can create sound effects, I can create atmosphere, I can create all this and that, but it's another thing entirely to think about, well, as a sound designer, you are still a storyteller, right?
Yeah.
You are still engaging in how do you tell the story, but also how do you represent these characters. And I think Nick had such a strong sense of who these two are.
Hmm.
And I think that, like, amongst everything else, that really fed into how he approached a lot of his sound design. I mean, a lot of the sound design I feel like is very subjective in the movie, and very keyed into how the two protagonists, Ricky and Geraldine, how they're feeling in that moment. And so, yeah, I mean, sorry for speaking for you, Nick, but yeah, I think like that was something I was particularly impressed by.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think in tandem, the musical part and the sound design creates a holistic, organic, you know, character
Yeah.
that adds to the film. And that's why I kept thinking of David Lynch, because David
Yeah.
Lynch, the sound is so important to his movies as well. And the special effects too. I mean, your film is basically a body horror film as well.
Mhm.
And that seems to be very in vogue these days. So I hope you find a distributor to get the film out there. It's not for everyone. It's a film that's pretty in your face with the violence, but it's a little bit on the cheesy side too,
Yeah.
right? I mean, Jorge looks really bad after he gets beat up by the hot dog man. So the makeup people also, kudos to them. They did a terrific job. I think the interaction between Louise and Jorge, you pull it off, you hold it together. I thought the poem you read to the little girl without giving away anything was also very touching and on mark. And I think when you're working on a film like this and you have 10 days to shoot the thing and you don't know what it's going to look like afterward, I guess, Keshav, did you share edits with the crew and cast? Or were you, just
Not
the
so much
editor?
early edits, to be quite honest. And that's more of a me thing, because I knew that like I wouldn't want to share something until I felt very strongly about it.
I do the
And
same thing. I never show my actors what I'm doing. I show them
yeah,
little bits. I send them pictures, but
sure.
I
No, I
don't.
was definitely like sending like stills and things like that. But
Right, right.
yeah, I think for me, like I know what the emotional process is after making short films when it comes to editing. And for me, the emotional process is you shoot the movie and you see the dailies and you're riding that high and you're like, oh my god, the footage is so cool, oh my god, we did it, oh my god, it's amazing. And then you get the assembly cut and then you watch it and you go, all right, maybe now's the time to run a bath and drop a toaster in the bath. um because I've never been happy with an assembly cut ever. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think a
Well,
lot of
you
us.
can always change it, but there's a point where you have to say enough.
Well, I think it's one of those things where it's like there's the movie that you think you shot, and then there's the movie that you actually shot.
Right.
And the re-edits are realizing this is the movie that we actually shot, right? And making that the best version of that. You're always going to have a different version in your head, and then reality gets in the way of it, right?
Yeah.
And so it was only after several re-edits where I felt more comfortable to share those. But I knew innately, I'm like, all right, I've never liked an assembly cut I've ever made. It's only after like several re-edits that I'm like, okay, I think I like it now.
I get you.
Right. Is this? I'm sorry.
We can hear you now, Nicholas. Yay! All right. Tell us. You're a little low on volume wise, but
Yeah, I'm checking my.
now it's better.
All right, I'm sorry about
All
that. That's
right, now
ridiculous.
that sounds excellent.
That's crazy.
Give us your feedback. Give us your feedback on the experience working as sound designer on this movie.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
No
prior.
worries.
And I really appreciate all the words, Keshav. The first viewing of this movie, I remember they sent over the link, and I was writing my notes down so I could have a good call, afterwards. And one of the things that I wrote in around the after like the scene where they're looking for the organ, to donate or not donate, but I just stopped kind of like trying to take technical or like thematic notes, and I wrote, this movie is so much fun. Like, this is just fun. Like, I'm having a good time watching this pre-color, pre-sound cut. Like, I'm already here. And so that's when I was like, I really need to try to work on this. This is really cool. And to speak to everybody else's, putting forward, like building the world visually and with the soundtrack, there really was this cohesive feeling of slow, like motion death, like this thing right from the beginning, right from the train coming across the screen and it being just kind of overloaded. Things are crossing when you're introduced to these characters, and then but it's like all just it's all just like other people moving, other people doing things. These characters are done from the beginning. But they don't know it, I guess, and they're gonna try. And building this world of the outside versus inside, especially during the monologue scene, the outside, the storm, kind of trying to like break into like this cave of a place,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then it doesn't. It just kind of like lets you know that nothing is gonna bother them. They're gonna just do what they got to do inside this place, and it just gets worse and worse. And the sound effects of the monster and some of the more gruesome stuff, keeping it like kind of horribly realistic, I think, because it's kind of funny, playing against the horror while there's these dialogues,
Mhm.
like letting the characters like realistically deal with the the things that are in front of them, not giving the audience the big jump scare necessarily, because you're not distracting. You're living with these characters while they're actually that's the scary thing. Like the scary thing is how these characters are talking, not the sound.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of. I mean, in certain aspects, in certain scenes.
Mhm.
And just letting it all, and then it builds and it builds and it builds, and there's like the last kind of horrible thing that happens. I don't know if we don't want to give away spoilers,
No,
but
don't give away.
yeah, yeah. But then like, I just remember doing that scene. There's a scene at the very end where Keshav was just like crazier, more crazier, weirder, bigger, more sounds, more you need like and I think, there's like trains coming in and out, and there's all this stuff, but we don't see any of these things, but you also, and then the music is happening. So there is this climb, there is this place where you start with the outside. It's winter, it's cold, then you're inside, and the first thing you hear is the hammer of Jorge hanging the first scene is so good. I don't want to, yeah. Anyway, it's all very slow. You're walking through, you're like, and you get slapped in the face a few times in the beginning of the film, but then the whole thing flips on its end, and then you ramp it up. It's kind of outside versus inside. It's like the front half versus the back half.
Yeah.
I really had a lot of fun like playing with these ideas of like fighting things, like these fighting elements, trying to kind of break into each other throughout the whole thing.
If I can add to that,
Yeah, go right ahead.
I think Nick, one of the influences we were talking about too, in especially in certain sequences, but I think we were talking about Raging Bull. I remember there's that famous scene where
In slow-mo.
Yeah, where he's like getting pummeled, and noticing that a lot of the sound design in that sequence is not realistic per se. Like it's like not sounds that you would actually hear in the ring, but they create a subjective experience to it. So I think that was definitely like an influence that we were pulling from.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We've kind of run out of time, but I wanted to just share screen with folks so they could see how to buy tickets. So let's see how I can do this. Oh, all righty. Share. And then allow. And this is our website, our official website, which is njfilmfest.com. And normally everything would be here, but since the pandemic, we've been a hybrid film festival. Actually, during the pandemic, we were exclusively a virtual film festival because the university where we're based was closed. And so we developed a new audience, and we got people. There's one lady from Oklahoma City that watches everything. And so we didn't want to exclude those people when we went back in person. So we've kept it as a hybrid festival. So when you get to our homepage, you'll see this placeholder for the Fall 2026 New Jersey Film Festival. You absolutely want to click on this tickets info link, and that'll bounce you to our Eventive website, which has got all these really wonderful buttons at the top. You want to click on all of them. The schedule one is basically a very vanilla version of the schedule, which lists everything separated by date that's in red. And as you work your way down, you can see all the various films that we're offering. And then you get The Flesh People on Saturday, September 26th, online for 24 hours and in person at 7 o'clock. And I'll explain that in a second. Then you click on the tickets one. This is where you buy the actual tickets. And you hover over the image. And here's one of the images after they had a delicious meal. We won't say what kind of meal. And you just kind of click on Learn More and you can buy tickets there. And then you can go back to festival site. You want to buy an all access pass. It's $100 to see everything. And that includes a concert that we're doing, an AV concert. You can go to menu to get back to the welcome page. And then there's a filmmaking workshop that we're doing and a film business workshop taught by an entertainment lawyer. Both of those are free. I'm teaching the filmmaking one. And then we have a concert too, featuring these crazy bands from New Brunswick. And we're trying to promote these basement bands that don't get enough attention. So that's basically how you can get access to our festival. There's links here. You want to get parking and information, how to get to us. They're down on the welcome page. And it's really very straightforward. General admission is $15, and that's both for in-person and online. And yes, we have a number of crazy people that watch the film during the day and then come to the in-person screening later in the afternoon or evening and ask questions to the filmmakers, because most of the filmmakers come to our festival screenings. And I know Keshav is going to be there. Louise, hopefully is going to be there. And you guys are always welcome to join us as well. And you could be on stage and take questions from the audience. I'm sure they'll have lots of them. And this is an amazing film and one that needs to be seen. It's like I said, it's not for everyone. It is a horror film, but yet there's so much, it ties into so many current events, whether it be, racists from down south or, trying to make a living and feeding your family. So I think that it definitely talks to current events as well. And so I think good horror films do that. They're not all about gore. They really have something to say. And I think, Keshav, you do a wonderful job with that. So I thank you very much for joining us, everybody. It was a pleasure chatting with you. I know it goes by so fast. I could chat with you guys for hours, but we have a chance to do that at the in-person screening. So hopefully you guys can come. Thanks again for joining us. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks so much, Albert.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.